repeating itself. Kallas, as the High Representative of Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, you have, as far as I know, 3 mandates: defending Europe, securing the neighborhood, and building partnerships. Can you specify a bit more on what that means for European security and a partner like Norway?
Yes. Well, I think in the world that we are right now, we really need to build up our own defenses, and that's why I mean, part of my work is really to try to bring member states together to do things on defense together, also with our partners, because so far, you know, on the European level, we have the ministers of justice meeting all the time, and they already think European, whereas the defense ministers have always been like, you know, national budgets, national decision making, and of course it's a competence of the member states. Nobody's taking that away, but thinking that member states are too small to do it alone. If we do it together, we can actually cover a bigger area. I mean, take air defense, for example. I mean, doing it together, it's expensive. So we have 9 capability areas that we are developing really in collaboration with NATO. So 23 members of EU are also members of NATO. You have the capability targets there, but how can we actually, you know, European defense industry contribute and work together in order to reach that? Now, when it comes to building partnerships, then it is really what I said before. You know, whether you go to Asia or Latin America, then really there's a lot of looking at our way in Europe that, you know, if you do this, we come with you, or like, we want to be behind you because we want to build partnerships with you. Because, you know, being predictable, that has been maybe, you know, because we are a bit, like President Macron said, too slow for sure, but it has become our strength in terms of being predictable and stable ally. So really partners are looking at us, and of course we also want to diversify our portfolios. We have learned the hard way that, you know, having dependencies, whether it's on energy, whether it's on security, you know, having dependencies is making you vulnerable, and if you're vulnerable, you're weak, and that's why really building partnerships is key. And of course Norway we sort of consider also a part of Europe, and that's why very close ally. We have a security and defense partnership, and you know, in terms of economic security as well, the cooperation that we can do in this front. And when it comes to maritime security, I think also developing international rules further, that they would, you know, be applicable today, because we didn't have critical undersea infrastructure before, we didn't have weaponization of trade routes before, so I think there's a lot where we can cooperate and not putting all the eggs in one basket anymore.
I have another question to you directly here from Karsten Friis. Kubelius has called for a new European Security Council comprised of the major powers of Europe to provide security leadership. Your thoughts on that?
Well, we already have a defense council. I'm not really, maybe I come from a private practice, and having been prime minister, I'm really, you know, thinking in terms of implementation. It's not about, you know, the meetings. We have the defense council, which is the meeting of defense ministers. We have the European Council, that is meeting of leaders. So we have a lot of meetings. Now the question is how to really make these things actually work in practice. I mean, whether it's capability coalitions that we have built or other parts. So I don't think we need more institutions. We just need to implement the plans we already have.
And you also said last week, I think, that a EU force separate from NATO was inconceivable.
No, I said that was Secretary General of NATO who said that. But what I said is that those who say that we need a European army. And maybe, those people haven't really thought this through practically, because having been a prime minister, you know that you have one army, you have one defense budget. So if you are already part of NATO, and then you can't, create a separate army, besides the army that you already have. Because in terms of crisis, what is the most important is the chain of command. Who gives orders to whom? And if you have, like, the European army and then you have the NATO, then, the ball just falls between the chairs, and this is extremely, extremely dangerous. That's why I say we have to strengthen European defense, which is also part of NATO. It is really complementary to NATO. Let's not throw NATO out of the window.
Stoere, you said that you talked about the Euro-NATO. That we have to strengthen the European pillar or the European group in NATO who has to deliver more. Is this the answer on a European...
I think it's exactly what Kaja is saying, and speaking from her experience. And I think actually those proposals that the European Union should be about defense and command structure is doing a lot of damage to the debate, because it's not the road we should travel. No. Take that away. And I think, security in Europe now, if you think about it very pragmatically, with the UK outside the EU, but still a major military power with nuclear weapons and, its capabilities. Norway, not to be shy, lying there in the north looking out security. We have to break through this, and get that into pragmatism. NATO is there with a decision-making process among allies, which is in itself complex, but it is trained to work. And as I said in my intervention, I think, we will see a deepening of perspectives and purpose of the northern European countries, which is natural. And I can understand that, for Giorgia Meloni in Italy, with her outlook, she has a different regional outlook around her. And she will have to deepen that also with countries close to her because of geography. And we will have to do something close to geography up north. So, Espen and I, when we were in government 20 years ago, we took this initiative of saying, let's bring NATO home. Because at that time, the kind of impression was that NATO commanders knew more about the mountains in Afghanistan than about the fjords of Norway. Yeah. And basically, I think that has... with history's many turns and tragedies, it has in a way succeeded that there is a focus now on defending the core territories. So I think, we have a good point of departure to this. I'll just come back to my point. When we now invest in defense to 3.5% and 5%, let us do that wisely. Because if we do it side by side, it will be waste. If we do it coordinated, it can be a formidable force of deterrence.
Exactly.
NATO threatens nobody, but nobody should be under the impression that they can threaten us.
And NATO has one very valuable thing, and that's standardization of the forces. And I think that's very important also for the Europeans, because to have 178 different weapon systems is not going to bring us further.
But there is also one request that we have as the European Union to NATO to share those standards, and information, because we can't help to our member states to develop those capabilities or do them together if we don't know everything that we need to know in this regard. And there, I think the 23 members that are members of both organizations have a particular responsibility.
Yeah. And how do you see what kind of measures can be taken to improve the relationship between the EU and NATO in the years to come? Because I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, no, the relationship between EU and NATO is very good. I mean, we are in constant contact, but the thing is that the NATO, all the members need to agree, sharing, some of the information that is, problematic for some members. If we think about, Turkey and we think about some European union members. So we need to overcome those obstacles because we really need to have sharing of these things so we can help both organizations really.
But think about it, what has changed. I mean, a few years ago, NATO and the EU could not talk together.
No,
I mean,
exactly.
it was blocked, and I think it was